What? What the? I just binged ReZero in 2 nights. When I was 16, I'd be laughing at myself for being proud of that. When I was 16, I would bend time and watch 100 episodes in a day. I can't do that anymore because, I have other things I need to do in life. So for me, watching 27 episodes in 2 days was a lot to do. And it was a lot to take in, but wow, ReZero is actually kinda good. For some reason going into it, I had this expectation that ReZero would be the most trash thing I've ever seen. And even though I've not really seen that many people trashing on it, and I've actually seen quite a bit of praise towards it, I've gotten mixed opinions on it, of course, because everything has mixed opinions from different people. But I went into it with actually fairly low expectations. I did not think I would enjoy it. I'm just not huge on the isekai genre. There are some isekais I enjoy, but I feel like everyone knows it's an overdone trope, so I wasn't necessarily excited to get into a new isekai. ReZero is frankly the most different isekai there is. ReZero stands out as the most unique isekai in the isekai genre. At least that's my opinion. If you guys think there's one that's more unique than ReZero, put it down in the comments down below. We can argue, we can hash it out, we can get clear on what is the most unique isekai in the entire genre. Put that down in the comments below, let's argue. All that said, I just want to get my thoughts for ReZero, the entire series, from episode 1 to, I think we are now on 28, I want to say, is what I watched up to, and in about 3 days we're going to have episode 29 coming out. But I watched from episode 21 to 28 in 2 days, and I want to get some things off my chest. First of all, Subaru is a fucking terrible person, and he's a simp. I hate him as a person. I hate Subaru's guts. I hate him. Although, he is entertaining as a protagonist, and therefore I continue tolerating watching him. Rem is a fairly good waifu, actually, and is a respectable choice for those of you who decide that Rem is your waifu. I respect you. I don't necessarily agree, but after having watched the series, I can understand. It's a respectable choice. That said, the only time where Subaru learned not to be a complete dickhead was when Rem confessed to him, and then he was like, "Oh, wow, you showed me how to be a good person. Let me emulate that." You are not a good person, Subaru. You are copying what you saw happen and trying to make it succeed. It didn't work for Rem. Why would it work for you? I hope you fail. Next, I want to get out of the way. I'm a Ram guy. Ram is best girl in the series for me. Ram is amazing. I love Ram. Okay. Ram is better than Rem in my opinion. Oh my god, I'm gonna get hate for this. I'm gonna be in the minority. Seriously. Rem is so much more secretive than Rem. The first time that we really get to see Rem in her true self is when she is fucking murdering Subaru without telling anybody in the woods. And that wasn't because of some curse or anything. That was because Rem is fucking crazy. That said, of course she was being protective, she was doing something good, and Rem, honestly, after having seen it, I'm into the crazy a little bit. So let me rephrase, crazy's not always a bad thing. Rem almost has the perfect amount of crazy, where it's not always present, but when she's protecting those who she loves, the crazy comes out, and it's amazing. The crazy is also an attractive feature. But, what isn't an attractive feature is the fact that Rem is way too secretive and way too reserved, in my opinion. For me, the best trait in a person that I personally enjoy is someone who is very forthcoming and honest and just super easy to understand and makes themselves easy to understand. And that is why I'm a Ram person. Ram is straightforward, she does not hold bars, she is always going all the way. She's also very emotionally invested in those whom she loves and would do anything for them. We see that when Rem dies in one of the realities that Subaru lives through. And honestly, there was one of the episodes where he almost spent an entire day with Ram, and really, Ram is just as human as any of the other characters and has all the same emotions. I went into this kind of thinking Ram was a trash character and that, she would be completely put to the side, which she is to an extent. She's definitely not focused on as much as Rem. But everything that Ram is in, I'm just wow, this is genuinely probably my favorite person in the series. I could get along with this person. Ram has probably made it into my top 10 most favorite anime characters. That might be kind of ridiculous, but she's so fucking real. I love it. Ram is best girl. Who even is Rem? Emilia is not a contender. Stop. It's not that Emilia is a bad character or that Emilia is a bad waifu, or whatever you want to say. Emilia is just bland. I'm sorry. It's an overdone character archetype, and there's nothing to her character that is particularly unique that I don't see in half of the other anime I watch in one character or another. Alright, we've talked about waifus. Ram is best girl. No discussion. Only arguments, and everyone will disagree with me. But that's because everyone's wrong. I'd probably give the character development in Re:Zero a 9 out of 10, because characters change pretty drastically throughout the show, and it really does like kind of hone in on that as a focus. I might even say that's the strongest point in Re:Zero, is its character development. As far as antagonists go, Betelgeuse is okay. He's not particularly amazing, and hear me out. He's got the crazy in spades. He's got the crazy all over the place. Easily one of the craziest characters in anime I've ever seen, and that is not to be taken lightly. Anime is a medium full of absolute insane nut jobs. But Betelgeuse is special. He's out there. He's really out there. All of that said, I cannot understand his motivation, nor his psychology, or what's going on with him. Obviously, he's just madly simping for the witch. And the witch doesn't even, like, give a flying crap about him. I don't know how he got the abilities he has. If he had some contact with witch in the first place, he's just a simp. And a simp does not necessarily make a good villain. There needs to be more to a villain than simping for a bigger villain. And really, I'd say he's the only villain in the first season. As I'm recording this, I'm realizing that I'm forgetting the debowler lady, but her role as an antagonist was not particularly impressive either, and it was pretty cliche, so I'm not necessarily going to improve my opinion on it based on forgetting that character, because I forgot her, so she's not that memorable to me personally. She's only in the first few episodes, and while she was like potentially interesting character, they dropped her pretty quickly in the first season. She's not really come back yet. Other than that, I wouldn't say we had people who were opposing our protagonists at times, people with conflicting interests, but there wasn't really necessarily any other antagonists other than you could try to say the white whale, but the white whale was a monster that liked eating people and erasing them from existence. So, which, by the way, is kind of a Bible reference. The way the sin of gluttony worked through the white whale and the guy who could use the sin of gluttony's witch power thing, whatever it was actually a lot like the second death that is spoken about in the Bible. In the Bible, there's something referred to as the lake of fire and sulfur, and looking into it, if you really understand what it means, the lake of fire and sulfur is someone's existence, name, and it's even further than what happens in the show, because that is when someone's name is completely forgotten, everything they've ever done is completely forgotten, but not only that, it is completely undone, being that all of the effects they had in this world, their legacy and everything they left behind, will no longer exist, as if they had never been born. That is the second death. That is kind of similar to what the sin of gluttony was doing. Now, the witch of greed that we just met in the last episode, her name is escaping me at the moment. I'll make sure to look at it so that I can include it in any future videos I make about Re:Zero. But the witch of greed is a very interesting antagonist, which I'm assuming she's going to be an antagonist. I kind of hope so, because I'm already way more invested in her character than I was in Betelgeuse. Because she is mildly sane. Something's going on in her head other than the witch, simp, ah! There's more stuff happening in her head than that. I mean, she invites her main character to a tea party in a world within a world where, like, it was a super confusing moment, because we get into, like, past the border for the sanctuary, and then at this point, I'm not even sure if this is, like, still the real isekai world yet, or if he's like in his head somewhere. And then he goes into this temple, and then he goes into this random grass field and goes to a tea party with a witch, and then he's pulled into like the space-time continuum and has a mental breakdown or something, which is pretty normal for him. And then after all that, they go back to the field, back to the tea party, and he's like, alright, I'm chill, bye witch, I'm not interested, I want to go find Emilia, because our main boy is a simp of simps. Not as bad as Betelgeuse, but he simps for Emilia way too hard. And why? Because she was kind of nice to him once? He's like, I'm gonna sell you my soul because you saved me in a back alley in an alternate reality. Like, I get it, she's a sweet girl, cool. You don't need to, like, simp that hard. You repay the debt 100 times over, and you're like, man, I could still never repay you. You're so amazing, Amelia. He fell in love with her. I understand the idea of love. Love is blind and love is stupid, and you need to stop Subaru. I mean, like, Rem isn't best girl, but Rem deserves Subaru after all the crap that she's done. I mean, she's genuinely a good person, whereas Subaru is not. I'd say Rem deserves better than Subaru, but she deserves to get what she wants, you know? She's a good character. Subaru's a crappy person, but a good character. And Amelia is just an character. And a good person. So, I don't know, you can consider all of that and who you want to end up with who. I'm not huge into the ships. I just think that Rem should get what she wants because she's a good character. Anyway, I'm getting way off topic. After he's done and he leaves this witch, he gets back out. Suddenly we're back outside the temple, and that's when all the dots can be connected pretty easily. It's easy to understand what happened. You're like, oh, they crossed into the border. Now they're kind of in the sanctuary area. They're not technically in sanctuary yet, which is just actually the witch's graveyard. They are in the real isekai world. He was only taken to that separate realm when he was inside the, like, testing temple thing, which we'll get into in a second. But they go into the actual sanctuary area where all the rest of the characters are, where Ram is. It's nice to see Ram again. And when they get there, Roswell is all torn up and bandaged up in a bed, and they realize that they're all kind of being held prisoner, and no one can leave unless Amelia passes a test through the temple, which we already kind of know. Subaru can go into the temple. Subaru can also take this test. But none of the other people know that because they don't understand that Subaru is like an exception to every rule ever. So they basically elect Amelia to go take this test, and if she passes, then everyone is free to leave. Of course, Amelia goes in there, and being the cliche character she is, she's like down immediately. Like, she goes in, it lights up for like 5 seconds, and it's dim, and they're like, oh, she already died or something. And, you know, our simp, he was like freaking out. So he decides to run into the tower after them, and they're like, you can't do that! And then he does it, and they're all like, I guess he can. He goes in there, and he immediately collapses, and then he's back in the real world, in the fake world, because now he's having an illusion, probably, where he has to solve some problems of his own and stuff, and it's kind of implied that he has to deal with his past before he can deal with the trial and conquer his issues as a person. I don't know what's happening. Maybe he has daddy issues, because he wakes up in his bed on Earth, I'm presuming, and his dad is, like, in shorts without a shirt, and he's ripped and jumps on him, and it's like, why is your dad buff? Why is your dad acting like he's kind of a cool guy? And why would he raise someone like you? I don't know. I really don't like Subaru as a person. He's a good character, and he's a good protagonist. As a person, I hate his guts. Although, I said a few things that were a little controversial in this video, and I'd love to argue with you guys, because you're all wrong if you disagree with me. This video is 100% facts. So go ahead, put it down in the comments. If you want to be proved incorrect, you can fight with me. Or maybe I'll ignore you if your opinion is just so incomparably stupid that I can't begin to understand it. But that probably won't happen. I trust you're not that crazy. Wow, I'm being very rude. To the good people who support me, and the people who are here, just subscribe to my channel, or however else you found this video. If you enjoyed it, if you're somebody who likes my content, and if you're a nice guy, you don't have to agree with my opinions. I understand that some people are just wrong sometimes. But I appreciate everyone who sat through this video up to this point. Thank you so much, reviewers, consumers, and connoisseurs, and I'll see you next time. Keep it cool.